Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to talk about the Rick and Michonne television show. I actually wanted to talk about some new stuff here. And then I also wanted to talk about, an eventual reunion between Rick and Daryl and Rick and, a bunch of other characters. And then I also wanted to talk about one thing quick because I talked about it in my last video, but I never actually mentioned this one aspect to it, which I think really shows how the CRM views Rick, right? But anyways, before we go any further, obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. My next video will be my Last of Us trailer breakdown. I apologize, I just got really busy yesterday, so I couldn't do a video, but my next video will be that. I'm going to break down that trailer. That show looks really incredible. I'm really excited by what I saw. I'm very excited for January. This is going to be something that we honestly talk about quite a bit. It's 10 episodes, so I mean, that's going to take us until, I guess later March, like late March, mid-March, late March, or I guess it would be later March, right? Then obviously you know how good the story is, right? Like I think the story for season 1 is going to be really good. I know the story in the second game is definitely controversial, but obviously we'll deal with that once we get to that season, whenever that happens, if that's season 2 or season 3. But for this first season, I think this story is going to be really incredible, and I'm really excited for it. So before we talk about the reunion and talk about some of that stuff there, I actually want to mention one thing here, and that is a reason why Rick could be so valuable to the CRM. Because I mentioned it in my last video, I mentioned like, why didn't the CRM kill Rick there in that scene? Or at least that was a question that was asked, right, in my Q&A, because it didn't really make too much sense. Like, Rick was there, he ran away from the CRM, and if you do that, the CRM basically kills you. Like, they don't really care about you that much, right? But for Rick, they didn't. They kept him alive. And so, that made people question a lot of things. Like, why is Rick so important? A lot of people mention plot armor, this and that. Obviously, that's probably a part of it. But I think there is something to it. And if you remember during World Beyond, Jadis does mention that, the reason why she is where she is because she gave the CRM something that they really found extremely important. I can't remember exactly the words that were used, but basically they found it very useful in so many ways. And what she gave to the CRM was Rick, right? And so the CRM obviously view Rick as being very valuable to them, right? Like that seems to be actually a thing. Like they see something very special in Rick Grimes. And so that's why they kept him alive there. And I think it just makes a lot of sense. Like in terms of what they see of value, the only thing I can see really honestly is the fact that he's a really great leader. And I think they really look for people like that. So I think that's the only reason why, because it's not like he has like the cure or like something like that. Though I imagine, I guess those could be ideas out there in theories. I don't think that's true at all though. Or could you imagine if that actually was a thing? Like Rick literally was the cure or something like that. So that's why they wanted him. It would make no sense though, because like they would have to have done tests on him and then they would have the cure and all of that, though maybe there's a reason why they brought up the whole cure storyline in World Beyond, right? Like maybe they're actually going there or something with this. So I don't know. Most likely not. They're never going to go anywhere near that, obviously. That's something that like people can talk about, but I don't even really want to focus on it because it's never going to happen. But obviously they find Rick, super important to them. And I just think that that's something that we're going to see in this show here. We're going to really see why the CRM want him so bad. And the funny thing is, I feel like what could play into it a little bit is maybe Rick already knows, right? Like maybe Rick is sort of planning his escape and all that, knowing that the CRM won't ever kill him because they find him very valuable. They want him on their side kind of thing. I guess that's them sort of revealing their plans and stuff like that. So I don't know if the CRM would tell Rick or anything like that, but he's going to be favored by them quite a bit. And there's going to be certain characters, I'm assuming, that won't get that same treatment, right? And it's going to be really fun. Honestly, it's going to be so much fun to see. And that's where I kind of want to get into some of the stuff here, because I've seen a few people kind of saying like, why do you keep saying the Rick and Michonne show is going to be multiple seasons? It's only going to be one season. It's just a limited series. Like it's just that. First of all, I'm not saying it's going to be multiple seasons. Like it's 100% confirmed. I'm saying it makes sense that they would do it. Like it's most likely that they're going to do it because limited series, even if it's like 6 episodes or 10 episodes, 8 episodes, whatever they do, shows that are limited series get renewed for a second season all the time. Like the whole point of it being a limited series, it really is more of like, it's a smaller story. There's sort of a set amount of time that they're going to be doing this for. It's going to be a 1 season, 2 season, 3 season thing. Maybe 4 seasons, but it's going to be like, 6 episodes? It's going to be a very small story. Like they know what they're sort of doing with it. It's not going to be like 16 episodes like The Walking Dead that could get renewed for multiple seasons and constantly go on and on and on, right? Which, by the way, if they wanted to, they could change that. If they wanted to do more, they don't really have to keep it a limited series. They could renew it for season 2 and keep going. And so that's what I'm saying. It's not confirmed or anything like that. I'm just saying it makes sense based off of how big the story is with the reunion with Daryl and all the other characters, you know, with Michonne having to find Rick, it's too much to tell in 6 episodes. There's a big CRM story there. Scott Gimple's really been building this up for quite a while. You know, there's a lot more to tell there. You can't really tell it all in 6 episodes. You really can't. And also, EW and also comicbook.com has mentioned a lot, like the first season of this show. But with EW, you know, there was that one article that was released after Comic-Con in which they said that they reached out to AMC, in which they said it would be the first season of a continuing series or something like that. So, and I'm paraphrasing there, but yeah, so the idea, I think, is right now they're doing this story here. It's going to be very much focused on Rick and Michonne, but to expect a big reunion with Daryl and every other character for them to take down the CRM and all of that in 6 episodes, that's quite a bit. And that's where I wanted to talk about this one idea here. And we'll get into the whole interview with Grant Nicotero right after this, because I think that's really important also to get into, because it's kind of interesting. But I see a lot of people online referencing this quite a bit, which is like, you know, well, they were going to do 3 movies, which would be like 2 hours long. So in total, that would be 6 hours of footage. Well, the show is going to be 6 episodes and they're going to be 1 hour each. So that's the same thing, right? It's going to be 6 hours. And so I think the thing that you're forgetting about, and I've talked about this before, so we don't have to talk about this one idea here, and that is the format of the story is definitely very, very different. Like telling a story on a television show from episode to episode, the story is going to be worked out so differently than a movie. A movie, you have to come up with a whole thing. Like basically this Rick and Michonne show, if you just think about it, like episode 1 and 2 would have to be put together so well that it felt like a movie. And then episode 2 and 3 would have to be put together so well that it felt like the second movie. You know what I mean? And so you also have to take into consideration the time span of when these movies would be released, right? And what if they were released 2 years apart, 3 years apart? I don't know how much apart they would be released, but say it's like 2 or 3 years apart. In between that, you would have Daryl and everyone else that has a spinoff sort of doing other things, you know, kind of, I'm assuming anyways, building up to a moment where they would all reunite in the end and sort of live happily ever after, I'm guessing, right? Like, we used to always talk about that all the time, right? Like the fact that Michonne would likely show up in the second movie. The first movie would be all about Rick and just sort of what he's been dealing with for the last however many years, building up some CRM stuff, this and that, and then maybe a cliffhanger or a post-credit scene would reveal that Michonne is there, right? And then in the second movie, we would get Rick and Michonne's reunion, and it would be super exciting, and then they would advance the story a lot more throughout that movie, and then in the third movie, you would have Daryl and everyone else, I guess, basically in that film, and then just wrap up everything, right, in that last movie. And honestly, like at this rate, like obviously the film wouldn't have been released this year. The first movie was likely going to be released, if they were going to start filming it and everything, maybe 2023, but probably 2024 or something like that. It really depends. Like I don't know the real reason for them not doing the movie. We'll talk about that in a second, but if it was every 2 years, like basically the third movie would be out in like what, 2027 to 2030 or something like that. Like there would be so much Walking Dead stuff going on in between all of that. So that's what I'm saying. It's very different. Like a movie to a TV show is just so different. If you're going to take that story from a movie trilogy and put it to a 6-episode TV show, that would mean that Daryl would reunite with all of them in like episode 5 or 6. Like there's so much stuff there. The Walking Dead really excels at character building. I just think story-wise, it makes more sense to do a show than a movie. And I think that's why they chose that. Like, I don't know if that's the actual reason, I'm just kind of assuming, but I think that's the reason, because that's just literally what The Walking Dead excels at, right? That's what they've always done from day one, from the very beginning. They spend episodes building up characters, building up their stories, and yeah, some people have found it boring here and there, but usually it's always ended in a very big reveal that was really exciting and fun. Sometimes it wasn't, you would be disappointed, but that's just sort of, I don't know, that's just what happens, right? And so I think that's just what makes The Walking Dead really great. And that's why I say, you know, I do think there's likely going to be multiple seasons. I think there's too much story here to tell. I think this first season is very much going to focus on Rick and Michonne, very much introduce a lot of the CRM stuff. I think it's going to be a very phenomenal season. I'm very excited for this. I think it's going to be really great. But I don't see them in the end, in episode 6 of the show, ending it where Rick and Michonne just go back to Alexandria and they reunite with everyone. Like, again, it's 6 episodes. There is so much there. There's just, in my opinion, you're rushing through so much there. So that's why I think there's going to be a season 2 or maybe even a season 3. And also there's an article here that actually references that. And I got this here from Screen Rant, so definitely I will leave a link down below. They actually talk about the next thing that I do want to get into, and that was regarding how the movies eventually became this TV show. And so yeah, we'll get into that right away. They actually referenced that, like I said, but I will leave a link down below to 2 articles. With this one here is from Screen Rant, the other one here is from Den of Geek. But with Screen Rant, they actually talk about the fact that with this TV show, it actually works out, because if you wanted to do a season 2 or a season 3 or something like that, you actually could. You could actually focus on really building out the world here and, you know, getting everyone to reunite eventually. And they actually say here, the Walking Dead spinoff will also be able to spend more time following both Rick and Michonne, as the initial 6-episode season could be a season 1 for the new show. Because of the possibility of a season 2 or 3 for Rick and Michonne spinoff, the series will be able to explore more regarding Rick's capture, Michonne's journey, and the pair's inevitable reunion than a trilogy of films could. Rick and Michonne's journey being a series also lends itself to possibly being the bookend for the Walking Dead franchise as a whole, ending the series with one final episode from a spin-off focused on the show's original protagonist. So yeah, I guess it depends on what they mean by that, but that's kind of what I've always assumed. But also, I don't think the Rick and Michonne show is going to end the Walking Dead franchise. I think it's going to end the story as we know it. And then going forward, they would probably do like a Walking Dead 20 years later type thing, where we have Judith and RJ. They're basically like, what, 30 years old or something like that. I think they'll likely do something like that, just because, I don't know, it makes sense. Like, they might wait on that a bit. They might wait 5 to 10 years before they do that show, but they're likely going to do that show one day, right? But that's the thing. I think that's what makes more sense story-wise. You know, building up 6 episodes worth of stuff that they're going through in terms of the story in order for Rick and Michonne to reunite in the very, very last episode, you know, the finale to season 1, I think would make this show here, these 6 episodes, so amazing, right? And I really like that. I like the fact that if they take this show and they always keep it 6 episodes, so say in total it's 3 seasons. Say if they wanted, they went to 3 seasons, and each season was 6 episodes. Like, the story we're going to get there is going to be amazing, because those first 6 episodes are really going to focus on Rick and Michonne, you know, reuniting, sort of recapping what Rick's been up to for a bit, what he's currently dealing with, what Michonne's been up to and what she's dealing with, and how she's trying to find Rick. You know, build that up over 5 episodes and then in the finale, they reunite, and it's all awesome. But there's this CRM threat out there, and they have to escape, or it's whatever. And so it sort of ends on a cliffhanger. But we got Rick and Michonne to reunite, and it was very emotional and amazing. And you sort of end the arc in some exciting way. But obviously, it opens the door to a season 2, where I think you could take another 6 episodes and make those 6 episodes really great, focusing on those characters again and how they deal with the CRM, what their situations are like at that point. If other characters from the Walking Dead universe are going to show up, maybe Jadis shows up there. I mean, I think she should show up in season 1, but say she doesn't, maybe season 2 she'll appear. And then, you know, just think of other characters. What if Morgan goes on that show? And I just think the possibilities here for the story are just, it's awesome. I think for fans, we should be very excited. I see so much disappointment online about it just being only 6 episodes. Like, you can't tell the whole story there in 6 episodes. And I definitely very much agree with that. I want an ending here to the story. I just really want it to be done in a really great way. I want Rick and Michonne to be present in the story for a while, where it just feels like they've been there for a long time, and then you just kind of end it, right? And so I think doing like 3 seasons of this show, I think would be really awesome. I think you could tell so much there. Just do 3 blocks of 6 episodes. There's a lot you can tell there. The first 6 focus on Rick and Michonne. The second block of 6 episodes could really focus on some other things, really building up the CRM and how threatening they could be to everyone, right? And then in the third part, like the third block of 6 episodes, focus on just sort of wrapping all that up and getting all the reunions that you want. And then, yeah, just kind of ending it there. I think fans would be so excited with that. I think it's so perfect. And that's where we get into some of the stuff here with how the movie became a TV show. So Nicotero actually talked with, I guess, Den of Geek, because it says exclusive. So yeah, I'll leave a link down below to the article, so definitely go and check it out. But Nicotero actually mentions here, and I quote, "Several iterations of the movie script flew around and it just ended up not coming to fruition. The idea of doing a Rick Grimes show popped up a year and a half ago, probably. I don't think anybody really thought it was going to happen. Lo and behold, as we get closer and we start realizing, look, if we're not going to do the movies, then maybe there's a show there." So that is what I wanted to talk about as well, because that's actually really interesting. You know, there was actually a point where they weren't really just going to do the movies, and there was no real, like, I guess, talk of doing anything with Rick and Michonne. It was just sort of going to end like that, like the story was just wrapped up and that was it. I really do wonder what went on behind the scenes. I hope that one day we do find out. I know a lot of people have been talking about that, like, are we ever going to find out why it happened and just sort of the behind the scenes of everything there? And I hope we find out one day, like, it is very interesting. Nicotero says here that, like, the idea sort of came around that, like, you know, if we're not going to be doing these movies, maybe we should do a show. I'm not sure why they couldn't do the movies. I really hope that we do find that out at some point, but I know Andrew Lincoln was very excited to do movies. Like, I know he's wanted to do a Walking Dead movie for just literally forever, right? And so I wonder if the idea of him doing a show was less appealing and he was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. I wonder if that was a part of it. I don't know. Maybe he was excited about it. I have no idea, but I would like to find out one day why the movies became a show, which I think in the end, and I think most people actually really like this idea, but I think it was actually way more exciting because a lot of people have sort of talked about that. I actually talked about it before it was ever announced. I think I talked about it almost a year ago, but I said, like, if they were ever to do a Rick Grimes TV show and just do a couple of seasons or whatever, I think that would be way more exciting than movies, because with a movie, you have to tell the story a little bit differently, and also there's only hype really for like the month leading up until the movie. And then it was just kind of over, right? And then you got to wait 2 more years. You're waiting for a trailer, this and that. But it's not the same like Walking Dead experience we're all used to, where we watch an episode and we wait till the next Sunday to watch the next episode, right? Like, I like that experience with The Walking Dead. And so I'm really happy that that's able to continue here going into 2023. We'll see what happens with 2024. And that's the thing with all of this year. Like, we're going to find out at some point, probably by Comic-Con, what is happening with all of these shows, right? Like, we'll know by then if Dead City is going to be getting a season 2. If the Rick and Michonne show is really good, and honestly, like, they really like it, and they want to announce it for a season 2, they may do it beforehand. Like, a lot of shows are renewed for a new season beforehand. So they could announce that at Comic-Con next year, right? Like, here's the trailer for the Rick and Michonne show, but also we're getting a season 2. Like, that would be so exciting. But I can also see them holding that off until they air the show. Like, they want you to think that this could be the end, and then after we watch the finale, they're like, yep, it's been renewed for season 2, and then all the excitement is just, it's there, right? Obviously everyone's very excited, but yeah, I really can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2024. They're going to have Walking Dead content that year, obviously. I just want to see what. Like, for sure, I'm assuming it's going to be Dead City, and obviously the Daryl Dixon show as well. Like, I think both of those are going to be for sure in 2024. Fear the Walking Dead, I don't see season 8 being the last season. They haven't said anything like that yet, so I'm assuming that will be 2024 as well. As for the Rick and Michonne show, again, a lot of us want that. A lot of us want more seasons, so we're just gonna have to wait and see if they do renew it. I think there's definitely a big story there to tell. I don't think you can wrap that up in 6 episodes unless you're planning not to tell a lot of it and you're condensing the story more. But yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see. So anyways, I really wanted to talk about that just because I've seen a few comments and stuff regarding some of the stuff. I read this interview and I was like, yeah, you know what? I really want to talk about this because I think that reunion in the very, very end with Daryl, with everyone, is very important here. Like, could you imagine if we actually wrapped up the story with Rick and Michonne, which, yeah, maybe is really good for their characters, but like, Daryl is still out there looking for Rick and Michonne in his spinoff. Now he's in France. What's going to happen with him at that point? Like, he's going to come back and he's going to be like, oh, Rick and Michonne are back in Alexandria already. Like, we want to see that reunion at some point. We definitely want to. And so what, we're never going to get that ever? Like, that last scene there that we got in season 9, episode 5, was actually their very last scene together. It can't be. Like, I just personally, I can't believe it. So that's why I think we're going to get multiple seasons. But anyways, if you disagree with me, you can let me know down below. But how excited are you for the show? Definitely post all your thoughts down below. The show is going to be filming next month, which is very, very exciting. I apologize for this video being very long, but I've seen a few comments of people saying that they do prefer the longer videos because it's almost like a podcast in some sense, right? Like, I'm just giving some thoughts on things, and I kind of prefer doing longer videos than like 2 videos a day. So actually, that would be a good question for you guys. Would you guys prefer longer videos like this, but just like 1 video a day, or like 2 shorter videos? Like, obviously some stuff I would have to like do shorter videos on, but like the thing is like, even, you know, before with trailer breakdowns and stuff like that, I would give more of a general trailer breakdown, but maybe what I could do is actually do a very long trailer breakdown that could be like 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes, but I actually really go through everything. It could be more entertaining. I don't know. Definitely let me know down below. Just let me know what you guys prefer. But I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.